Now, when President Trump tweeted about his intent to ban transgender troops from the military, a lot of us were wondering, well, wait a minute, that came out of nowhere. What's the deal? Why is he trying to ban transgender people from serving in the armed forces? That seems like pretty strange, especially since he never really cared that much about transgender issues. That wasn't something that seemed to have been high up on his radar. And actually, he claimed that he would be he would be much better for the LGBT community than Hillary Clinton would be. So, you know, he was like, oh, so much better for the LGBT. Let me tell you what, I'm going to be fantastic. It's going to be great. Okay, so look, this was rather odd. And it left a lot of us scratching our heads trying to figure out who directed him to it. Well, I actually have an answer for you. Now, before I go on, I do want to note that Trump, right now, the ban is not in effect. Okay, Trump hasn't even sent an order to Mattis to ban openly transgender people from service. So right now, nothing's changed, but that could change later on. So let me explain where this came from and what happened. All right, now there's an article in Politico that explains exactly how this came into play, and you're not going to be shocked that Donald Trump was actually willing to sell out transgender people in order to get some sort of win on the wall for Mexico. Politico writes, House Republicans were planning to pass a spending bill stacked with some of Trump's different campaign promises, including money to build his border wall with Mexico, of course. But an internal House Republican fight over transgender troops was threatening to blow up the bill, and House GOP insiders feared that they might not have the votes to pass the legislation because certain people, defense hawks, wanted a ban on Pentagon-funded sex reassignment operations, something that the GOP leaders would not give them. So that's interesting. Now, yesterday I speculated that this is simply transphobia. Turns out I was kind of wrong, at least according to this article. Now they're saying a lot of these defense hawks are like, we don't really care if transgender people serve in the military. We don't give a fuck. But we do care about spending money on them. We don't want to spend money on our troops, the people that are actually out there doing the fighting. No, all we want to do is we want to give more money to defense contractors. Because defense contractors, they give us legalized bribes and campaign contributions. So, of course, we're going to defend them. But, again, we're not going to pay for anything that actually helps our soldiers, the people that are actually doing the fighting. And as you're going to find out, a lot of these people were not actually in favor of the ban. Very interesting. Now, before we get into that, though, I want to thank, I guess I want to give credit to some of the GOP leaders, right? And now that includes John McCain, right? John McCain, he railed against the ban. And a lot of these leaders are like, no, this is dumb. Why would we do that? If anybody wants to fight in our all-voluntary military force, well, okay. Why are we preventing them from fighting? It's pretty dumb. And as far as the Joint Chiefs are concerned, well, remember yesterday, I was like, either Donald Trump was, either he was lying about talking to the generals and the Joint Chiefs and all that, or, you know, or they had come to an about face, because beforehand, they're like, no, we're not in favor of this policy. We're not in favor of banning transgender people. It's ridiculous. Well, it turns out the Joint Chiefs were exactly that. They were not in favor, and they were actually blindsided by this entire thing. They had no idea what was going on. So, and of course, later on, they came out against it. So with all these other people against it, here comes Donald Trump. These so-called defense hawks that don't want to spend any money on our troops that happen to be transgender, and look, probably are a little bit transphobic, let's be honest. They turned to Donald Trump. Now, Politico writes, Trump's sudden decision was in part a last-ditch attempt to save a House proposal full of campaign promises that was on the verge of defeat, according to numerous congressional White House sources. So they turn to Trump and they say, hey, man, look, you got all this stuff in this bill. We want to pass it. Don't you want to get the wall funding for the wall to Mexico? Don't you want to get all these other goodies that we packed in here for you? Your campaign promises? Well, you got to help us out by making sure that we ban transgender soldiers from getting funding for sex reassignment surgeries. Not ban them from the military altogether, but just to make sure that they don't get any money for their sex reassignment surgeries. So that's what that entire thing is about, okay? So now Trump, well, I'll get to what Trump actually does later and how these insiders describe it. But first, numerous House conservatives and defense hawks, according to Politico, this week had threatened to derail their own legislation if it did not include a prohibition on Pentagon funding for gender reassignment surgeries, which they, of course, deem a waste of taxpayer money. Now, look, laugh along with me, okay? A waste of money. You want to talk about a waste of money? No, the Pentagon, they love to waste money. Look, let me give you an example here. We spend more on boner pills, erectile dysfunction medication, than we do on transgender sex reassignment surgeries. 5 times more on boner pills. Not only that, but look, how much we would actually spend on sex reassignment surgery would actually be very low according to Pentagon standards. A June 2016 study from the Rand Corporation, who was not really a liberal organization, all they did was just crunch the numbers, they estimated the cost associated with medical care for gender transition would only increase military health care expenditures between $2.4 million and $8.4 million each year. So, look, that sounds like a lot of money. Oh, my God, they're spending $2 million on, you know, sex reassignment surgery, turning men into women and women into men. Oh, my God, that's so much money. Well, let's put it in the context of the Pentagon budget. And, look, this is the military's $47.8 billion annual health care budget. This isn't the total budget, which is over $600 billion a year. They carved out almost $50 billion for health care for all soldiers. Paying for transgender sex reassignment surgeries would increase the cost by between 0.04% and 0.13%. A little more than 0.1% of the budget. Not of the entire Pentagon budget, but to the health budget. That's what we're talking about here. That is such a momentous waste that the so-called deficit hawks are like, oh my God, look at how much money we're spending on transgender sex reassignment surgeries. We got to stop it. We got to stop it, guys. We're wasting so much money. In fact, we're wasting so much money that we're going to derail all of the goodies that Donald Trump wants in this budget that we're trying to pass. For that little amount of money. That's what makes me think that it's not so much about the money. I think it's more about transphobia. But again, I don't have any direct proof of that. So, now, again, speaking of waste, right? You want to know what else is a waste other than just the boner pills, right? That cost 5 times more than F-35. Or the fact that we have 11 aircraft carriers in service. You might think, oh, well, we need those 11 aircraft carriers, don't we? Not necessarily. It takes $2.3 billion a year to run one aircraft carrier. We've got 11. The entire world, all the other countries' navies combined have a total of 8 aircraft carriers, and a lot of those include our allies. Why in the fuck do we need 11 of those? Oh, I know why. It's America. That's why. So yeah, let's talk about wasteful spending. So here's what's funny, right? The Republicans, these so-called deficit defense hawks, whatever, didn't want to spend money on reassignment surgeries. However, they also did not even think about expelling trans people from the military. Even though they don't want to spend money on their reassignment surgeries, they're still fine with having these people serve in the armed forces. They're like, yeah, we don't care if they're there. We just don't want to pay for them at all. I mean, we're going to be super, super stingy on this one. Because that's what we are. We're super stingy. Okay. Now, Now, according to a senior aide who had an email exchange with Politico, House Republicans were never debating expelling all transgender troops from the military. So this isn't like what you're hearing from people like Tommy Loren. It's like, yes, they finally wanted to end the social experiment on our military. No, that wasn't the point at all. The point was just to be cheap. Now, House Republicans, as I said, according to this Republican aide in this email, said, this is like someone told the White House to light a candle on the table, and then the White House set the whole table on fire. No, that's amazing, right? So they turned to the White House. They're like, okay, do something so that we don't have to spend money on transgender sex reassignment surgery. Okay? We don't want to spend money on that. We want to be cheap fucking assholes and give more money to defense contractors. And what does Trump do? He fucks it up. Of course he fucks it up. He fucks up everything because he's got the Midas shit touch. Okay? Everything he touches falls to shit. And that's what he did. So, light a candle. Okay, so just light a candle. So we can push through these cuts. Oh, God, look at that. You lit the house on fire. Oh, no. Now, you realize that Trump's an idiot. He's got no tact, no nuance. So he's like, oh, yeah? Yeah, I'm going to go above and beyond. I'm just going to ban all transgender people. Idiot. He's a child. Now, the source said that although GOP leaders asked the White House for help in the taxpayer matter specifically, they were not expecting and got no heads up on Trump's far-reaching directive. So, now what's interesting now is that even though the House is on fire, and they didn't originally want to set it on fire, there are some Republicans that are like, hey, you know what? We kind of like it better this way. Let's not put the house fire out. One White House official said the decision would be, quote, seen as common sense by millions. Really? Okay. Though likely vociferously protested by others. White House officials also noted that conservatives had pushed for the ban, including a May letter that was signed by dozens of right-leaning hate groups. I added hate into that. Now, that same administration official said, quote, it's not the worst thing in the world to have this fight. So, now what about Mattis? Now, I talked about Mattis last time and some of the stuff that he had talked about. After all, he did greenlight a review and delayed what was supposed to happen in July, okay, where transgender people were going to be able to start getting the surgeries covered, right, by the military. And Mattis is like, no, let's do a review on this. Let's put the brakes on this. Let's give a 6-month review, and then we'll come back to it. We want to see if our fighting force can integrate well, and if we can, that it's not too disruptive, and that we still remain a lethal military. Okay, so that's what he did. Now, it turns out that upon learning about Donald Trump, and he was away, he was like on vacation or something, when he heard Trump's directive. And apparently he was not happy about this, okay? Now, according to the article and multiple sources, the announcement did not sit well with Mattis, who appeared to be trying to avoid the matter in recent weeks. An extensive Defense Department review of the policy was already underway, but the decision wasn't expected for months. Insiders said Mattis felt that there was no need to rush upending this policy, arguing the Pentagon needed time to study this issue. Well, wasn't the RAND studies enough? But hey, okay, if you want to do more studies, I guess, do what you got to do, but it's not going to change the result. And again, they already looked at the RAND studies. They already did these studies, and they found that there was little disruption, and that it actually turned out to be fine and not a huge drag financially on the Pentagon. Again, we gave you the numbers to this already. Now, its decision, they write, would affect at least 2,400 transgender active military personnel, according to that RAND report, though many military LGBT activist groups say as many as 15,000 soldiers fall into that category. So, there's Mattis. Now, one of the people that were actually pushing for this is somebody named Representative Vicky Hartzler. of Missouri. She's a Republican. Now, she's the original author of the House's transgender proposal to defund, right? Now, she had attempted to reach Mattis by phone numerous times to discuss the issue. He wasn't interested. He's like, oh, is it that Vicky Hartzler again? Yeah, put her on hold. Yeah, tell her I'm in the shitter or something. I don't really want to talk to her. I don't really want to address this issue. I don't really care. Okay, we're doing the review. Good enough. She's like, no, I want to talk to you. No, I want to talk to you. Mattis only got back to her to the day, back to her the day she forced the matter on the House floor in mid-July. And this is according to Representative Tom MacArthur, who opposed the Hartler proposal. He said Mattis asked Hartler to withdraw her amendment and give him space to maneuver. Hey, look, I know you keep trying to get a hold of me, but I'm telling you, we're doing a review right now. So get off my nuts. All right? We're doing it. We're doing this whole thing. We're looking at it. We're doing the review. So get out of my face. Withdraw your amendment. Now, lawmakers, including Hartzler, went around Mattis. They were not satisfied with what Mattis was saying, so they went around him to engage the White House. Mattis knew the ban was being considered and was consulted before the announcement, according to several White House officials, but the decision ultimately came down from Trump and was, quote, White House driven, according to different aides for Trump. Now, the president, in doing so, he was already thinking about this for a while. So it turns out it wasn't quite as spontaneous a decision as it had seemed. He was thinking about this, and he was like, transgender people, I don't like this delay. Let's make a decision. According to one person, he was annoyed. A different official said the White House had gotten positive reaction from conservatives, an important factor amid their displeasure with Trump's recent bashing of Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Conservatives were telling the White House that they didn't want money in a spending bill to go to transgender health services, said one senior administration official, noting that it had accelerated Trump's decision. So all these conservative groups, they start pressuring Donald Trump. And they're like, hey, you know what would be super great? You know what would make you a tremendous, fantastic president? If you were to ban transgender people from the military. That would be amazing. And that's what we're trying to do. And if you do that, you're going to get some goodies. You're going to get funding for your wall. And if you don't go along with, so you don't play ball, well, you're not going to get that money to build your Mexican wall. But wait a minute, I thought Mexico was supposed to pay for that. Anybody know what happened to that? Seemed to have disappeared. Now, their argument, Politico writes, fell on sympathetic ears. White House sources said Chief Strategist Steve Bannon also had encouraged Trump to deal with the matter now. And of course, in trying to deal with it, my opinion is I think he might have actually fucked it over. Now, look at the outrage here. It's almost overwhelming, okay? Now, as I said, the Joint Chiefs are against it. Mattis, so far, seems to be against it until his review comes back. Moderate Republicans are against it, people like John McCain. And you also have the Democrats that are teaming up with Republicans to say, this is bullshit. They're against a wholesale ban. So that's going to be very interesting how this plays out from here. Now, it kind of shows you, too, that if you ask Trump for something, well, he's going to go above and beyond. But only if you have something to offer him first. And look, it doesn't matter what it is. Even if it's breaking a campaign promise, if somebody makes you a really good offer, if you're Donald Trump, he's going to take it. So he's going to fuck over transgender people, or going to try to fuck over transgender people, even though he promised, oh, I'm going to be great to the transgenders. I'm going to be fantastic. No. Trump is easily bought, and he's easily influenced, and he's definitely for sale. And what's interesting about this example is that he might actually do it in such a ham-fisted, ridiculous way that it might actually doom the policy itself. So we're going to have to see what comes of this. Whether or not I'm correct in the fact that he's fucked this up. But for now, the ban is not in effect. So what they haven't done yet is that the White House actually hasn't sent the Department of Defense new rules, and Mattis hasn't issued any additional, or they actually haven't sent Mattis any additional guidelines for this. So right now, trans people are still able to serve. However, because of a lot of this, I can understand that a lot of them are very nervous and will be very nervous until whatever decision comes down and whatever the future is going to bring. So here's hoping that we can still stop this, that Mattis can stop this, the Joint Chiefs can stop this, and that this kind of pressure against the president might actually be effective in ending this policy. And by the way, one more question here. What happened to Ivanka? Why is she? I thought she was supposed to be the social, liberal. I thought her and Jared Kushner were supposed to keep Donald Trump in check when it comes to these decisions. Oh, right. She doesn't want to spend her political capital. And if she's not there to do that, then what is she there for? Because she's obviously not helping whatsoever. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.